Hi, it's Natasha N.K.O. Friday night, 11th of July now, because it's 25 past midnight. Reading from African Tales, I'm going to read the 10th story. So far, I've read Kwaku, Anansi and Aso, Akenda and Barney, The Cock, Tale of a Lantern, The Favoured Daughter, The African, Shamil and Shamilia, Half a Cock, The Boy and the Girl. So this one is called Mbewa, and Nkerma. Mbewa is spelled Mbewa and Nkerma is spelled Nkerma. It reads, it's from Nigeria. It says Bura, Bura. For many years, Mbewa and Nkerma were happy together. Nothing had ever come between them to separate them. Neither of them thought that anything could ever happen that would make them fight. Mbewa was raised by Heduma Sukwa and was like a son to him. Nkerma was a very near relative of Heduma Sukwa. The mother of Heduma Sukwa was a Miziwi. When Heduma Sukwa died, half of his property would go to Nkerma and the other half to Mbewa because they both belonged to the same family as Heduma and Sukwa. Because of these things, Mbewa and Nkerma could not be enemies, for they both sprouted from the same person. There was a brother of Nkerma whose name was Bardi Dawi. This Bardi Dawi dug up a peanut farm near to the farm of the slaves of Heduma and Sukwa. Each dug up his own farm and planted peanuts. When the peanuts grew, thieves came to steal them. The slaves of Heduma and Sukwa had to guard the farms and keep the thieves from coming and stealing peanuts. When the peanuts were ready to be dug, each of them dug his own peanuts and spread them out to dry. When the peanuts were dry, each began to carry his peanuts home. As they carried peanuts, the slaves of Heduma and Sukwa insisted that they should have some of Bardi Dawi's peanuts as wages for keeping the thieves away. They declared that some peanuts must be given to them or there would be trouble. While this talk was going on, Bardi Dawi was not there. He had gone to the house with a load of peanuts. There was a woman there whose name was Yangasa Kwapia. She guarded the nuts. She said to Bardi Dawi, "The slaves said that you must give them some peanuts, or do you think that they are your slaves and will guard your peanuts for nothing?" Bardi Dawi said, "Well, if they are going to ask and by force, I will not give them any peanuts, not even a few. Did they farm peanuts for me, or are they showing off because they are slaves?" Bardi Dawi and his wife gathered up their peanuts in baskets as if to take them home. But here came the slaves of Heduma and Sukwa, and Nyagasa Kwapia told them everything that Bardi Dawi had said. This made the slaves very angry, and they wanted to fight Bardi Dawi because he had cursed them. They came after him with a fighting knife. They struck and stabbed. Yaksa cut and gashed Bardi Dawi and received deep wounds from him before those who were near could get them separated. Both men's wounds caused great foul ulcers, and they had to take them to men who knew ulcer medicine. But Dawi's ulcer got worse. It was on his head, and before many days he died. All the people cried, "Heduma and Sukwa must run with all his people to prevent a feud." Already, destruction had been caused by his slaves. In one night, Heduma with all his close kin fled, but all the Miziwi came out to follow the feud. They swore that if they found any member of family of Heduma and Sukwa, they would kill him for Bardi Dawi. They hunted and hunted, but they could find no one to kill in revenge. For a time, Heduma and Sukwa sent a message to Nkerma saying, "It was a slave who killed one of you. It is not as if one of us had killed one of you. I beg you to let me pay you cloth or a horse or anything you say, and let us be done with this awful thing." Nkerma sent to Heduma and Sukwa in reply, Tell him that I will not receive cloth or anything else in lieu of a choice young man like Dowie. Nothing will end this feud but the life of a man, man for man." When Haduma heard this, he was very sad and did not know what to do. He knew that the day Nkerma met one of his family, that person would be killed. Haduma sent another message, begging Nkerma to take wealth instead of life in lieu of Dowie, but Nkerma would have nothing of the kind. Time went on, and Nkerma followed every rumour of the presence of a relative of Haduma. One day, Nkerma and the younger brother of the man who was killed went to a town named Vido. On their way back, as they came into a little flat, they saw a young man by the name of Kadari Helka. He was one of the Haduma and Sukwa family. He was a brother of Bwati, who lived at Pekuroma, or Pechuroma, Pechuroma. He was one of the finest young men in the whole country. Everything he did with vigour. He worked hard, and wherever he went, he was always chosen as the one who could not be surpassed. In an instant, Nkerma and the brother of the deceased whipped out their arrows and shot him. When they had killed him, they went home satisfied, because the young man whom they killed was very much like the one from their own family who had been killed. The Mzewa then became friendly, because they said that the feud was dead. But the family was not satisfied. Their hearts still hurt them, for always before, when a slave killed a man, a life was not demanded, but only wealth was required to settle it. This thing was not right. Haduma and Sukwa sent to Nkerma, telling him to flee with all of his people, or one of them would be killed, because they had killed Bwati's brother without cause. Nkerma replied, "We will not run. The feud is finished, man for man. Let me settle with you with wealth." All knew that the feud was really finished. One difficult thing remained. Mbewa did a foolish thing. Nkerma had a bull with the cattle of Pechuroma. The day Nkerma killed Kadari Helko, Mbewa caught Nkerma's bull and killed him out of a hot heart. After a while, wealth was poured out and the feud spirit was satisfied. When the palaver about the murder was finished, then there was no more palaver about the feud. However, the palaver had not reached its proper end, because the bull that belonged to Nkerma had been killed by Mbewa. There was no reason for this killing. A bull's blood can never equal the blood of a man. Only man can satisfy for man. He had killed the bull for nothing more than a hot heart. Nkerma liked to remember that he had a bull. Nkerma liked to remember that he had a bull at Pechuroma, but it was no more. After a time, Nkerma sent a man to fetch his bull. When the man whom Nkerma had sent reached Pechuroma, the people said, "Nkerma's bull is no more, for Mbewa killed it." When the man returned and told Nkerma that Mbewa had killed his bull, Nkerma raged and said, "What is between Mbewa and me that would be sufficient reason for him to kill my bull? Am I in debt to him? Nothing can bring us together about a debt. Nothing but his bull, without argument, can satisfy me." Another man was sent to Mbewa, but he would not give up his bull. Time went on, and Nkerma learned that Mbewa had a big bull with the cattle of Pechuroma. But this bull was not the only bull in that herd. There were many bulls in that herd. Nkerma wanted to know the particular bull so that he could catch it. He begged a young man by the name of Yero to ask which bull belonged to Mbewa. He offered him a large gown if he would find out which, beyond doubt, it was. This Yero could go to that area freely, for he had no enemies there. One day he wandered over to the Pechuroma and saw the cattle. A boy by the name of Chamasu was herding them. Yero stopped and visited with Chamasu and said, "You have a lot of big bulls?" "Yes," said Chamasu, "but each has its owner." Then Yero said, That one with the great long horns. That is a nice one. Whose is that one? The herd boy said, That one? Oh, that is Mbewa's. Yera looked very closely to make sure that he saw some distinguishing marks on it. When he returned home, Yera told Nkerma that he without doubt saw the bull. I cannot be mistaken about it because I looked at it very carefully. Nkerma counselled with his men friends as to how to get this bull. They decided that one day, when the Pacharama cattle were near, they would drive them all home and separate this bull from the rest, then return the others to Pacharama. They watched and they waited, but they could not find a time when it was safe to try. They feared that if the Pacharama people saw their cattle being taken, they would raise the war cry and come prepared to fight. On a certain day, the people of Pacharama heard that a political officer was coming with members of the ruling clan. At that time, when they heard of a political officer coming, they would run and hide all their belongings. They would send their children and their cattle and horses and goats to the next village, which happened to be Garkida, where Nkerma lived. This they would do until they could be brought back after the political officer had gone. The people of Pacharama thought that Nkerma did not know Mbewa's bull, but he had sent a spy long before to find out for him, and now Nkerma and the Mziri frightened the herd boys away and drive the cattle to where they could separate Mbewa's bull. The herd boys ran to tell the people of Pacharama that their cattle had been stolen, and shortly all of them came running with their quivers full of poisoned arrows. But before they arrived, the bull had been separated and put with another herd, and the rest of the cattle had been brought to their owners. Fight was in the air, but those who had hot hearts were kept apart. They wanted to fight Nkerma, but the hot hearts could not get close to him. After much palaver, all went home without more bloodshed. There was nothing more between Mbewa and Nkerma. The end. And there's a photo of somebody called Nofindile Felakiso, a Sosa storyteller, November 5th, 1975. It doesn't let me share the photos. Thanks for listening.